Hello guys, welcome to the show. I hope everyone is doing just fine. So there are a lot of stories coming out from Africa and I thought maybe we should just run through all of them as quickly as we can. It's bringing forth stories like this to you guys takes a lot of time and effort and I really appreciated that some of you guys are enjoying our show, and some of you guys have shared some words of encouragement and appreciation. And some of you guys are really in support of what we do. We really, really love you guys. From the bottom of our heart, we are saying thank you. Thank you very much. And to those of you out there who haven't subscribed to the channel, please do us a favor by just subscribing. That really help us. That really, really help us. And you have no idea how that alone saved the channel. Please do that for us. We kindly beg you. Please. Thank you very much. So let's run along with some of the stories from Africa. Turkish President Erdogan and Egypt's leader joined force in Caro on Wednesday, advocating for a cessation of Israel's imminent offensive on the southern Gaza city amid its conflict with Hamas. Erdogan's visit marks a significant milestone in the restoration of ties between Ankara and Cairo, which had been strained for years. Erdogan's visit to Cairo follows his meeting with UAE President Sheikh Mohammed in the United Arab Emirates the day before. In Cairo, Erdogan held talks with President Fattah el-Sisi at the Etihadiyat Palace, focusing on bilateral resolutions and regional challenges, but particularly efforts to bring an end to the conflict in Gaza, as highlighted during the subsequent joint news conference by el-Sisi. Yeah, I think this is a very significant move. The conflict in Gaza is really affecting the Palestinians, and my heart really goes out to them. I have seen a lot of videos of Palestinians who are really suffering. Things are really, really tough for them. So we hope that people from around the world will start adding their voices to this issue in Gaza, and the people in power, those who can really effect changes in Gaza, will do so. So let's continue with our second story for the day. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has appointed his son-in-law, Oyatunde, as the head of the Federal Housing Authority. Oja is married to Tinubu's eldest daughter, Folashade. This move has raised concerns about nepotism in government. However, the presidency justified the appointment by highlighting Oja's decade-long experience in the housing and hospitality sectors and his previous role as a member of the House of Representatives. The decision has sparked criticism on social media, with some arguing that more qualified candidates were overlooked in favor of familiar ties. Well, this is a big problem, not just in Africa, but all over the world. And the people in power prefer to work with family members and their close friends, which sometimes might not necessarily be a great thing, but sometimes might not also be a bad thing. The person mentioned might be qualified for the job, right? Might be the perfect candidate for the job. The fact that he might be a family or might be related to his employer doesn't necessarily have to be the main reason why that person might get the job. But let's just wait and see what this individual does, if he can actually get the job done or not. So let's move on to our next story for the day. Raila Odinga, the veteran opposition leader of Kenya and head of Azimola officially announced his candidacy for the chairmanship of the African Union Commission on Thursday. Speaking to the press in Nairobi, the former prime minister expressed his readiness to serve in this capacity, citing his prior experience as the AU High Representative for Infrastructure. Accompanied by former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo, Odinga stated that he had extensively consulted on the matter before making his decision. Obasanjo, endorsing Odinga's candidacy, emphasized the importance of having a leader from East Africa at the helm of the AU Commission, affirming Odinga's suitability for the role. Well, I have nothing against Odinga, and if he can get the job done, well, I have nothing to say. I just hope that when he gets there, he really try to fix things. He doesn't just stay there like any other career politician would do. Sometimes the thing that gets me angry about all these politicians is that before they get there, they make a lot of promises. They preach to us as to why they are the best candidate for the job. But as soon as they get there, then everything starts falling apart. You realize that they cannot do anything. Nothing they promise to do actually gets done. And that has always been my problem with career politicians. But let's wait and see what he actually does when if he became the head of the chairman of the AU Commission. So let's move on to our next story for the day. In a resolute address during the 37th African Union Summit, President Akufo-Addo of Ghana ignited a fervent call to action, advocating for the accelerated establishment of transformative financial institutions on the African continent. With unwavering conviction, President Addo championed the urgent formation of crucial bodies such as the African Monetary Fund, African Central Bank, African Investment Bank, and a Pan-African Stock Exchange. He boldly asserted that the global financial architecture perpetuates Africa's impoverishment, asserting that the time has come for Africa to seize control of its economic destiny. Let me say, okay, I have my own issues with Nana Akufo-Addo. I have some few disagreement with him. It's one of those leaders that I follow very closely in Africa. Okay, he and Paul Kagame are one of these leaders I don't know, maybe I have a bias towards, right? Yeah. But let me just say this. When Nana Akufo-Addo talks about things, I love the way he puts them. But I realize sometimes that he talks from both sides of his mouth, like William Ruto, okay? Like, he goes out there and says something really nice, something really encouraging. And then he turns around and doesn't do any follow-up. He would say that Africa must stand on her own 2 feet and then turn around and receive military aid from the European Union. How does that make any sense? He would say that Africa must learn to put on the big man pants. Africa must learn to solve things by herself. And then turn around and complain to the Americans about Burkina Faso welcoming Wagner group mercenaries in their country. And those Wagner groups are stationed close to the border with Ghana. That doesn't make any sense. And when that happened, I said about it, I was like, there's no way you ever became an adult by doing children stuffs. There's no way anyone takes you seriously when you don't do things that portray you as someone who is serious. Now, what he said here are something that I particularly have been talking about. And I think Professor P.A.O. Lumumba has said the same thing. Even Julius Malema have said the same thing. In fact, anyone with the Pan-Africanist spirit in mind will stand behind what Nana Akufo-Addo said. Those Western institutions were not made for Africa. When those institutions were put in place, Africa was not even considered. So, how do you expect something that was never made with you in mind to all of a sudden start catering for you? How do you expect to fit into a building that was never built with your characteristics in mind? That doesn't work. That doesn't work. The IMF, the World Bank, those institutions were made for the Europeans and the Americans. When those institutions were put in place, Africa was never in the minds of those people putting these institutions together. So it will never work in Africa's favor. Never, ever. We Africans must start looking for a way to put our own institutions in place, those that will work in our favor. And 54 countries in Africa can come up and put on a solid financial system in Africa to care for the need of the African people. That is what we should do. So this is a great move from Nana Akufo-Addo, and I celebrate him for saying this. But I know one thing in Africa is that things like this would take a century to get done. What happened to the free movement of goods and persons in Africa, as that has been sung for many, many years? What has happened to it? It has not been realized till now. What happened to the African Common Passport? Well, that one also have been shelved. What happened to a common currency for Africa? Let's even talk about the one from West Africa, the ECO. What has happened to ECO? Nothing. This is just but a common trend in Africa. We pick up great ideas. We run along with those ideas. Then we drop them and then pick up another one. That is what we do in Africa. That is what we do in Africa. But let's move on to the next story for the day. Angolan Foreign Minister Tate Antonio confirmed on Wednesday that the Southern African Development Community has commenced deploying troops as part of its mission to address the insurgents of attacks by the March 23 movement M23 in the eastern region of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Antonio made these statements in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, during the 44th ordinary session of the Executive Council of the African Union. Antonio noted that South Africa, Malawi, and Tanzania are among the regional countries that have initiated the deployment of military contingents to the DRC. He stressed that it is the responsibility of SADC member states to contribute troops to the DRC. Similar to the situation in Mozambique, in alignment with a decision made by the heads of state and government of SADC. This is a great move, my brothers and sisters. Like I have said before, right? Africa must learn to solve Africa's problem. Africans must learn to solve their own problems by themselves. Africa cannot keep on running to the West with the least problem they get. So Africa must figure out a way to solve this problem in Africa. And the issue in DR Congo is something very, very concerning and worrying, because this issue has been ongoing like forever. And no one seems to understand how to solve it. No one has really gotten a clue on how we can solve this issue. It has been just getting worse and worse. And a lot of countries have pointed fingers at Rwanda and Paul Kagame. They are saying that he's the one backing this M23 insurgency group. And Paul Kagame has denied that like all the time. So it's difficult to know who is really pushing the buttons behind the scenes. But you guys out there, let us hear your take on the stories we covered today on this show. And please, don't forget to like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so, because that helps us a lot and we shall forever be grateful to you. So thank you very much for doing just that. And like always, see you in the next one.